So Cindy, now what I want to do is, yeah, just cut the recording there and start a new one. All right, so let's talk about Stacey Abrams.
Okay.
I just throw it out. Stacey Abrams.
Stacey Abrams.
Okay. You're concerned about her becoming governor of Georgia, and why?
I'm concerned basically because of what a Democrat state can become, I guess is the best way to put it. I'm not saying she's not a qualified candidate. She's a very qualified candidate. She is professional. She's got a great educational background, but she's a very progressive candidate, as is Ocasio, whatever her name is, and all of those others. And they're looking to take Georgia blue. Right now, there are 33 Republican governors in this country. There are 16 Democrat governors, and there's one independent. The independent is in Alaska. Of the 11 states that have Democrat governors, there are, of the 16 states, there are 11 of those states that have a budget shortfall. 11 out of 16 have a budget shortfall. Of course, that means that there are Republican states that also have shortfalls. But 11 of their 16 are in the top 20 for shortfalls. You know, our state is in a great situation. Georgia right now is sitting very nicely. In everything I looked up, Georgia was never in an extreme one way or the other. A Democrat governor, like her especially, I think will take them to that direction. Also, of the 16 states, in the top 10 states with the highest tax rates, there are 7 Democrat states. I don't want to see Georgia go in that direction.
Well, let me say this here, and so we can have 16 states now have Democrat governors, and we have how many with a budget shortfall? 11 of the 16 have a budget shortfall. Now let me explain something here. Georgia would not have a budget shortfall, and let me explain why. Because the Constitution of the state of Georgia says it has to balance. Okay? That's in the Georgia State Constitution. It has to balance. So let's be clear. The Hope Scholarship for everyone, illegals and everyone, Medicaid for everyone, all of the things that she is promoting, that she wants to put into place, you will pay for. Because the Georgia Constitution says there can't be a budget shortfall. You can't. You have to balance. Okay? So it's a constitutional thing in the state of Georgia. So if she added, $1 billion in spending or $500 million in spending that we don't have now, they have to take it from you to balance that. So, I mean, you will pay for it.
And, to me, I see our state right now as, and she's going to cause this to even be worse, is it's almost Atlanta against Georgia. Now, I have a home in Atlanta, so, I've been in Atlanta for 35 years. I like Atlanta. But right now, she wants to be a governor for the city of Atlanta, basically. We've had Democrat mayors in the city of Atlanta as long as I've lived here. The last one is now under investigation. The present one might be under investigation. When Bill Campbell was in office, he went to jail. And Atlanta's not in a good place. I wouldn't go downtown in Atlanta at night. It's not safe. There are things because, and I think it's because they have been run by Democrat mayors who have their little groups that they work with and they want to see better. She says she's going to be a governor for all people. I don't buy that. I don't think she really cares about certain groups of people. I don't think she cares about North Georgia. I think there are a lot of things that she doesn't care about. And I think as a Democrat coming into the state of Georgia and wanting to take over, right now it's political. all the money that keeps coming into her, same thing that happened in when Karen Handler was running. Money was coming from California, from New York, from Illinois, from Soros, from all these other places, because they want to see the first African-American governor who's a Democrat to turn Georgia blue.
Yeah, but we will pay for that.
Yes.
We will pay dearly.
Well, but somebody else is paying to put her there.
Well, I want to double down on that for just a minute, because you make an interesting statement there. She says she wants to be a governor for all Georgia, but her policies don't. Her policies are group oriented. You know, she has certain groups. For example, when she says she wants to be the public school governor, okay? She wants to be the public school governor. She is definitely going to roll back the $100,000 private school scholarship tax credit. She's going to roll that back, all right? She doesn't want that out there, period, all right? So there's so many things like that that affect areas of the state, okay? Areas of the state that she is specifically targeting groups. And that is a long list of reasons I can't support her, is these groups that she has targeted, that she wants to be governor of the state. But if you're outside of those groups, you're going to be outside. I mean, when Republicans in the state of Georgia, when they did things to try to restore the Hope Scholarship after the economic crash, it wasn't for a group. It was for people that achieved
right.
X. No matter where you're at, you get the Hope Scholarship. Mm-hmm. For me, she wants to let all, even illegals, have the Hope Scholarship. You know,
that's a California idea.
What or do you have any other specific things about her that you want to run by?
Well, I think part of the reason that Atlanta is not as safe as it once was. Atlanta used to have Macy's downtown. People used to be able to go downtown shopping. It used to be a place where you could really move around a lot. I don't think Atlanta, now you can go into Centennial Park once it ever gets done and do some things there. But even there, at night, you've got, because our police force is lacking so many officers that we need. And she doesn't support them very much along the way. She basically, it says, she's against law enforcement getting bigger. She's against, as a matter of fact, she'd like to probably see it smaller, because she wants to make sure that when we put people in jail or we arrest people, that they get a very, how does it put on something? Get out of jail free card. If it's something that's not really a big deal, we don't need them in jail. We don't need law enforcement hassling them. That's a problem. That escalates as they go along, as far as I'm concerned. I don't like her stance on Stone Mountain Park. And I will tell you about that because my children basically grew up at Stone Mountain Park because my husband happened to be involved with the laser company out there. And of course, her big thing is that carving on the mountain, which I think is a part of history, and you can keep erasing it, but history is history. But she thinks it shows terrorism, domestic terrorism. What was her comment? Was something about, some woman asked her about it in something that she was talking about. And she said that the visible image of Stone Mountain's edifice remains a blight on our state and should be removed. She also said that I never once said sandblast, which is what somebody had said, but I did say that we should do something about the fact that we have this massive monument to domestic terrorism without context and without information, and believe absolutely the state should not be paying for a monument to domestic terrorism. First of all, the state doesn't pay anything to Stone Mountain Park. Stone Mountain Park happens to be owned by the Stone Mountain Memorial Association, a state of Georgia authority. It's self-supporting and receives no tax dollars, and it's responsible for Georgia's Stone Mountain Park. So none of our tax dollars are going into what she is calling domestic terrorism. Now, what is domestic terrorism? I mean, how do three figures up on a mountain prove domestic terrorism?
Well, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but one of the other things that really concerns me is something like 12.5 million she raised in dark money that nobody knows where it came from, and nobody has no idea who the donors are. And then supposedly out of that, she paid herself like $422,000
Right.
as a consultant
Right.
to herself.
Right.
But then she can't pay her credit card bills, and she wants me to believe that,
Owes the IRS $50,000.
Yeah.
And then she has another $170,000 in outstanding credit card and college debt. She says she's on a pay scale with the IRS to pay them back. And of course, she used that money for her father and felt that was more important than paying the IRS. Now, some of us don't get away with that kind of stuff. She, right now, is trying very hard not to, according to her, do a race, gender type campaign. She wants to talk about the issues. But anytime it comes back to an issue of race, gender, anything of that type, it comes back to being the first Afro-American governor in a state in the United States. And she went, she's not leaving it out that she will come back to those.
Oh no,
things.
and the media is doing everything they can to help.
Right.
I've got to take a break so I can close up a couple things, but there's one more thing I want to ask before we take a break. Now, Cindy will be not available for a couple weeks, but the last 4 weeks of the campaign, because we got 6 weeks left, about 3.5 weeks, she is determined to work on some things to help motivate you out there to get involved and get to the polls. How concerned are you that Republicans are not paying attention to what's happening here? How concerned are you?
I'm not so sure they're not paying attention. My concern is that they've gotten to the point where there's so much distrust in politics in general that people are saying, I can't do anything about it. So when the time comes, they're saying, hey, look, the Democrats, they're putting all this money into this. They're determined to get this, and Republicans aren't fighting hard enough to stop it, and things of that type. And so they go, what difference do I make? Well, they do make a difference, a huge difference. And I think if for nothing else, in the election, November election of 2016, I truly believe that, first of all, the polls, of course, were totally wrong. And I think a lot of that was because of the people being polled, for one thing. But I also think nobody would say what they were doing for fear of retribution, which they should have had that problem. But behind the scenes, obviously the Trump campaign was keeping things going. They were doing things very well. I happened to be in California on that day. Thank goodness I was flying out. But my daughter actually said to me, you don't really think he can win? And I said, yes, I do. And she called me at 1 a.m. amazed. I think that Republicans now have to rally and say, we can do this again. We're not going to lose the House. We're not going to lose the Senate. We need to keep going. We need to keep the economy growing. We need to keep jobs growing. We need to keep terrorism down. We need to keep the respect of all these countries that are finally coming to meet to talk about things like tariffs and bombs and nuclear wars and that type of thing. We as Republicans have got to get some guts about us and get out there and say we can make a difference. Now, I sometimes get very discouraged and say, oh, I can't do anything. And then, of course, I hear something on the news and I go wild and I'd start talking.
Talking or tweeting?
Talking and tweeting.
And tweeting. Okay.
But we need to be engaged. We have to be engaged. We said the 2016 election was one of the most important elections of our day. All of a sudden, 2018 is becoming one of the most important elections of our day.
It definitely will be. Boy, I wish we were not out of time. Cindy tweets. So, do you have a Twitter account, and what is your Twitter account? C
space Karkula, Karkula.
C space Karkula is where you can find Cindy. What is your Twitter account? Hey, she's out there every day putting stuff out, refuting the lies that I call it the deep state media. That's my take for it. I call them the deep state media that are trying to put out. Okay.
We've got some deep state politicians.
I should have never said. Okay, we got. I've got a couple things I've got to do, but this is great. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Cindy. I appreciate it. Cindy's going to be away for a couple weeks, and when she gets back, I'm going to ask her to help me, come in and help me all she can to convince you. Now, my thing is you got to call your neighbor. Do not try to convince a Democrat. You're wasting your time.
Absolutely.
Call your Republican friends that you're concerned won't go vote and your friends that identify as independents. Okay? I'm your host, BKP. Thank you very much, Cindy. We're going to take a brief break and then we're going to come back. And don't forget, at 10 o'clock, it's going to be time for instant replay. Take us to break.